And so let me give you 5 reasons that God institutes government. The first reason is this, is that the government's authority is derived by God. 1 Peter 2 talks about this, but Romans 13 is actually the most in-depth teaching in the Bible around government. Here's what it says as it starts. Romans 13 says, there is no authority except that which is from God. And so all authority derives that privilege from God himself. God created it, he instituted it, and so then it's up to us to be able to execute that authority, but it's all derived by God. Here's what Jesus says when he stands before Pontius Pilate. He says, you have no authority except that which God has given to you. My Father has given to you. And so even government is derived from God. Number 2, it is a divine authority. Here's what it says next in 13:2. Whoever resists authority resists what God has appointed. And so for us to rebel against government ultimately is for us to rebel against God. For us to resist the government is to resist God. For us to dishonor the government is for us to dishonor God. And then it goes on, and he says this in verse 14 of 1 Peter. He says, the government exists to punish evil. Could you imagine what our society would look like if there were no laws? You don't have to imagine. Just look to the cities that defunded the police. Just look at the major leftist cities like New York or San Francisco or Chicago, and see the crime rates that are going up, because what law does is it restrains evil. Okay? There are some people who push past the evil, but for most people, it restrains the evil that is inside of them. And so the reason God gives government is to hold back the depravity of the human heart. And it restrains evil. But it also celebrates the good. It praises good. Look at verse 14. This is why we have prosecution for criminals, and we also have celebration for heroes. Because what law does is it creates a safe environment, it creates good citizens, and it creates a world of flourishing. And so God gave government to be able to punish evil and to bring peace and to protect its citizens. And then lastly, God gave government as a tool to sanctify believers. If God uses the family to sanctify us, and if God uses the church to sanctify us, then it also makes sense that God would use the government to sanctify us. Yeah. But for Christians in America, we like 1 and 2, but we don't like number 3. But government actually sanctifies us as Christians, because we have to learn how to live kingdom down in a world that is living culture up. And so it creates perseverance, it creates attitude, and it creates hope. It creates endurance within all of us. And so as believers, we have to recognize that God has given government for our protection and for our good. Now, this is really easy to preach whenever it's your guy in office. Right? What happens when your guy loses? What happens when you didn't vote for the man who's in office? Nobody got to vote for Nero. He doesn't say, honor the emperor supreme as long as you agree with him. He doesn't say, honor the emperor as supreme as long as you voted for him, but if you don't have to do it. Rules don't apply to you. It's not what he says. But what if I don't like him? He doesn't say you have to like him. He just says you got to honor him. This is a military term that is used for submission. It's the same idea that soldiers in the military would do whenever they salute their general. If they can't salute the person, they still salute the uniform. And so as Christians, if you cannot respect the person who is an authority over you, you still need to respect that authority. And here's the reason why, because honoring people is honoring to God. As you honor people, God in return would honor you. But when you dishonor people, then you are actually bringing dishonor upon God, and you are ruining the Christian witness of the brothers and sisters that are around us. What is the honor that God will give? He says this. He says, for whenever evildoers come and speak slander against you, their accusations would not stick. And you will receive a testimony, the ability to witness. People will listen to you. I mean, why would someone come listen to you after reading your Facebook posts? If someone's hurting, are they going to come to you when they see that you're filled with so much hatred? When someone's divorced and their marriage is falling apart, are they going to come see you because of how compassionate you are? No, you're sending a negative witness out. My concern for us is this, is that come this midterm election, Christians are going to be so focused on winning the elections, you're going to forget that you're supposed to be winning souls. And you're so worried about losing an election, you're not worried about losing your reputation. Listen, people don't read the Bible. Non-believers don't read the Bible, they read you. And they're watching you and seeing how you respond. And I'm just going to lean over the plate and I'm going to say this. Majority of public opinion coming from the evangelical right, do you think they are honoring the emperor as supreme? No. Criticizing, making fun of him, degrading him. Listen, in our church, the only time anyone should ever say, let's go, Brandon, is whenever Brandon Stacy's preaching. It's the only time. Other than that, let's go, Brandon, let's go. Because we are to be honoring of the authority that God has placed above us. We're supposed to honor everyone. We're supposed to love the brotherhood, fear God, and honor the emperor. This is not a political view of government. This is a biblical view of government.